Hello, deep thinkers. We are glad to have you back. Your unwavering curiosity and dedication to understanding complex topics continue to inspire us. Today, we dive deep into the realm of intergenerational trauma. Let's embark on this enlightening journey together. Intergenerational trauma, an unseen scar passed down through generations, often unnoticed and unaddressed. This invisible wound is a concept that many of us might not be aware of, yet it's more common than we think. It's the pain that hasn't healed, the trauma that has been passed down from our ancestors, echoing through our lives in ways we may not even realize. It's a phenomenon where the effects of trauma are transferred from those who experienced it firsthand to their offspring and even future generations. Imagine a thread, a fine silver line running through a family tapestry. This thread is not just made of genes or physical characteristics, but also of stories, experiences, and yes, traumas. This thread, while unseen, shapes the fabric of our lives, influencing our behaviors, our beliefs, our fears, and our dreams. Let's consider a real-life example. Picture a family where the grandparents survived a war. They witnessed unspeakable horrors, experienced severe deprivation, and lived in constant fear. This trauma, even though they might have physically escaped from it, doesn't just disappear. It becomes part of their story, part of their being. As they raise their children, this unresolved trauma seeps into their parenting. The children, in turn, absorb these fears, these anxieties. And so, the cycle continues. This is the concept of intergenerational trauma. It's not just about the historical or societal events that happened, it's about how the emotional and psychological effects of these events continue to impact the lives of those who weren't even there. It's about how trauma can be inherited, just like a family heirloom, only much less visible and much more damaging. The field of epigenetics is beginning to uncover how trauma can leave a chemical mark on a person's genes, which then is passed down to subsequent generations. This is a relatively new and largely unexplored territory in the realm of psychology and neuroscience. So, how can you tell if you're dealing with intergenerational trauma? Let's explore. Sign number 1, unexplained anxiety. This is the first red flag. The earliest whisper of a story that's been passed down generations, a story that might not even be your own. Imagine someone who feels an untraceable dread, a persistent worry that doesn't match their current circumstances. It's like living in a haunted house, with a ghost you can't see or touch, but can feel in every shiver of your spine. Let's picture John, a successful entrepreneur, who crumbles under a sudden panic attack at the thought of a simple presentation. Or consider Lisa, a loving mother, who's gripped by an inexplicable fear every time her child steps out the door. These fears aren't rooted in their present, but in the traumas of their ancestors, traumas that have been passed down, like an unfortunate legacy. The anxiety you feel may not be yours alone, it might be a heavy inheritance. Sign number 2, overwhelming guilt. This is not your everyday feeling of regret over a missed deadline or a forgotten birthday. This is guilt that feels as vast as an ocean, as heavy as a mountain. It's a guilt that seems to seep into your bones, a guilt that feels almost inherited. Let's consider John. He's constantly ridden with guilt about his parents' struggles. They escaped a war-torn country, sacrificing everything for a better life. John feels guilty for not appreciating their sacrifices enough, for not living up to their expectations, for enjoying a peaceful life they never had. This is not just simple filial guilt, it's guilt that is disproportionate, guilt that is passed down through generations. Or take Sarah, who carries an intense guilt about environmental issues despite doing everything she can to live sustainably. She's carrying the weight of past generations' actions on her shoulders, feeling guilty about things you had no control over. It could be a sign of intergenerational trauma. Signs 3 to 5, negativity, emotional instability, and chronic illness. These may sound like independent issues, but when they cluster together, they could be indicative of the unseen scars of intergenerational trauma. Let's delve into the first of these signs, persistent negativity. Imagine a person, let's call him John. John is perpetually surrounded by a cloud of negativity. From the way he talks about his job to his relationships, there's always a thread of pessimism running through his narrative. He seems unable to shake off this constant negative outlook. This isn't just a bad attitude, it could be a manifestation of intergenerational trauma, where the unresolved emotional distress of past generations seeps into the present in the form of persistent negativity. Moving to the second sign, emotional instability. Picture Lisa, who experiences extreme mood swings. One moment, she's on top of the world, and the next, she's plunged into despair. These erratic emotional patterns may seem like a personal issue. But could it be more than that? Could it be the echoes of past trauma reverberating through the generations? Lastly, we come to unexplained chronic illnesses. Imagine Mark, a young man in the prime of his life, plagued by constant health issues. Doctors are puzzled because there's no apparent cause. Could these inexplicable health problems be a physical manifestation of the trauma endured by his ancestors? Research suggests that this might be the case. The stress of past traumas can alter our genes in ways that affect our health, passing down a legacy of chronic illness through the generations. In all these instances, it's important to remember that these signs are not definitive proof of intergenerational trauma. They are simply potential indicators. It's equally crucial to understand that these signs are not personal failings. They are responses to the unresolved trauma of past generations. These signs might be your body's way of telling you that the trauma isn't just yours. Signs 6 to 10: addiction, fear of abandonment, difficulty in relationships, inexplicable sadness, and self-destructive behavior. Let's dive right into sign 6, addiction. Intergenerational trauma can often manifest in addiction. Imagine a family where for generations alcohol has been used as a coping mechanism for stress. It's not just a habit passed down, but a deeply ingrained response to pain, creating a cycle that can be challenging to break. Next, we have the fear of abandonment. This can originate from ancestors who were abandoned or faced extreme instability. Picture a child of parents who frequently threatened to leave or were emotionally unavailable. This child grows up with a deep-rooted fear of being left behind, a fear that they may unknowingly pass on to their own children. On to sign 8, difficulty in relationships. People carrying intergenerational trauma often struggle in their relationships. This could be due to trust issues inherited from an ancestor who was betrayed or mistreated. It's like a protective wall built by your forebears, which now inhibits your ability to form deep, meaningful connections. Inexplicable sadness, sign 9, is a poignant symptom of intergenerational trauma. Think of it as a shadow that lingers, a melancholy passed down through generations. Perhaps it's a great-grandmother's unshed tears that you feel welling up in your eyes, an inherited sorrow that you can't quite place. Lastly, self-destructive behavior. This sign is a cry for help, a misguided attempt to cope with the pain. It's like an echo of an ancestor's self-destruction, a pattern that repeats over and over until someone finally breaks the cycle. Now, it's crucial to remember that these signs are not definitive proof of intergenerational trauma. They can be indicators, but it's always important to seek professional help when dealing with such complex issues. Intergenerational trauma is a heavy burden to bear, but recognizing the signs is the first step towards healing. It's about understanding that your struggles might not be entirely your own. They might be echoes from the past, reverberating through time. These echoes, however, don't have to define you. Identifying the source of your struggle can help you confront it, can help you break the cycle. It's like finally seeing the chains that bind you, chains that have been invisible for so long. And once you see them, you can start to break free. Intergenerational trauma is not a life sentence. It's a starting point for understanding, for healing. It's a call to break the cycle, to ensure the echoes of the past don't continue to haunt the future. So, let's heed that call. Let's break the cycle. Let's heal. Your struggles might not be entirely your own. They might be echoes from the past. Recognizing these signs is the first step towards breaking the cycle. Understanding the nature of intergenerational trauma isn't just about identifying the signs, it's about acknowledging their root cause. It's about tracing back the wounds that have been invisibly passed down generation after generation. Take, for instance, the story of Max. Max grew up in a family where anger was a common response to stress. He found himself reacting similarly in his adult life, until he learnt about his grandfather's hardships, his battles, his unhealed trauma. Recognizing this, Max sought help and started the journey of healing. He started to respond differently to stress, breaking the cycle of anger in his lineage. Acknowledging our intergenerational trauma is a powerful act of courage. It's an opportunity to heal not just ourselves but our lineage too. It's a chance to rewrite our family's story, to change its course. Remember, you have the power to heal not just yourself but generations to come. Thank you, Deep Thinkers, for joining us on this journey. We invite you to engage further by liking, commenting, and subscribing. Your thoughts and experiences with intergenerational trauma are invaluable. Remember, your story can help heal others. Until next time, keep thinking deeply.